right. Welcome to week 3 of this 12-week Drive Beyond Community of Learning. Just to next, not a course focused on content. So you'll get a lot of content, but it's a learning community. So we very much welcome right now everyone that's online to share in the chat of the Zoom call any questions, comments, and ideas that are coming up. And ideally, almost everyone that's part of this has already either something they're working on, like in my case, I've been looking at a much better way to look at what often is referred as a autoimmune problem of low platelet count, that traditional Western medicine has some very limited approaches with lots of secondary effects. Second thing, just to remind everyone, is that we do 1 week like today, where we go into a concept like we did with hypoxia and hormesis that helps integrate a much more holistic approach to optimal health. And then the next week we have direct practice exercises. So for then the next 2 weeks, we look forward for people to try the exercises, see how it's working for what they are, and to share in the group that we have. So some people have already had a chance to do the exercise from last week, but still from this week to the next, we welcome everyone to keep doing the direct experience in practice. You will get a lot more by actually bringing that in. And third, that we are curating a group of complementary practitioners. So today, we'll get a chance to introduce Austin, who will be joining us in the near future. You'll get to see a video of Dr. Caro, who works hospital in Costa Rica in the gynecology area, going into how certain parts of women's health have often been looked by traditional Western male-dominated patriarchal science. So I want to make sure we also include that well. And in the WhatsApp group, you'll get a sense of some of the other practitioners that come together. So feel free to comment and ask. I'll let Yati start with a review of the program and introduction to our flow today. Then we'll have a bit of the video part from Dr. Caro for about 7 minutes. And then we'll have 2 or 3 sections as we delve deeper into how to find a more helpful living integration of these combination of ancestral wisdom practices that we know work, modern scientific understanding, and truly personalized ways of doing this in a way that we can use both our own intuition and ways of measuring progress. But I think one of the key things today, when we want to understand the mind-body connection and autonomic nervous system, is that for a long time things were studied very much separate ways. Like people who studied immunology would look at the immune system as if it was separate. It's not too long ago that we have very clearly understood that very high levels of fight or flight cortisol reactions to modern life are affecting very much the immune system, the gut, the sleep patterns. And then trying to treat any of them separately is a very limited approach. So we're going to introduce a more comprehensive way of working on this. I was very lucky to spend many years learning by the side of what Stefan Reshappen had developed, first at the Omega Institute and then at the Longevity Center at Blue Spirit, and many of the experts he worked with. So we'll be introducing some of that and guiding resources. But as we go through the talk today, Julia will be checking, monitoring, and interacting with the WhatsApp the chat, that we can also bring you in. So Yati, go ahead and take us on.
Thank you so much for the beautiful introduction, and welcome everybody. I'm happy everybody managed to put the time to tune into that moments together. I've been doing sauna and cold exposure in the past 2 days. Yesterday, 3 rounds of sauna cold, and today 2 rounds. And it's really new feeling for me to discover it in that manner at home, because it's just here at home. So it's really, yeah, I'm very happy to share with you one day in the future these direct experiences. But I want to start today with techniques to enhance our life force. And we do many techniques like I did with the sauna and the cold. But the true question is, what can we prevent or stop doing that demolish or stops our life force? Because we are doing this much more than the good things. We are doing more bad things than the good things, meaning things that distract more. And so it can be many unconscious things that we kind of doing, or we are conscious, but we still keep on doing. If it's a screen time, if it's being with the company that, so I think if we really can reflect on these things and start to make them less, we don't have to fight them, like but to see that we can minimize and introduce slowly more of the good things. And so this will bring us a good balance into life. So yeah, when you have a moment, even in this moment, I think it's the best time to choose one thing that you know that it's taking your life force down, and see if you can change it. So this is the first thing. Second thing, I would like to talk the ANS, autonomic nervous system, practical ways dealing with stress and anxiety. The first thing that is coming up to me, we are where our attention is. It's very basic, but sometimes we forget about it. That if my attention is now outside, then I'm more capable of receiving certain illnesses, diseases, and certain disbalances. If the attention is inward, I'm more protected. So our protection is to stay inward. What it means, uh, so this is another concept that I would like you to reflect with yourself, yeah, where your attention is, like during the day. It's not necessarily you can reflect on it this moment, but yeah, where our attention is and how we can play with it from the inward to the outward, like listening, but also staying inward, or going so much inward that you don't even listen to my voice. There is these abilities that we have also. Then the second thing I would like to discuss and just open it up for everybody, trust in body perfection function, meaning that the body, many times we have a certain imbalances. For example, I have a headache, then I start to see how to heal the headache or how to. And when we have this ability that we kind of trust the body in its totality, suddenly we see that the body is dealing with it in the best way. We don't have to slow it down or to make it faster. And and it's very like, it's crazy that I have to talk about something like this, that we have to trust in perfection of the body, but we totally forgot about it. That's why we face diseases today. Then cultivating healing abilities. Now, cultivating healing abilities can be all this what we practice, the breath work, the gradual cold exposure, the heat, meditation. But if we don't trust the body ability, this cultivation, they are not so functional. Like they function, but to a very limited extent. So yeah, I would like to hear maybe from some of you about maybe one thing that you see that is decreasing your life force and you would like to work on it. So let's make it a little bit interactive. Maybe you write in the chat and then, or maybe you speak. So yeah. Maybe you
Feel free
write
to
in
put it on the
the,
chat or to unmute yourself.
exactly, yeah. Then so we can interact a little bit about it. It's very interesting. Because many times we are focusing about enhancing life force, but we work both ways. So yeah, it's interesting to have your reflection on that, your experience.
Okay, Yati, I don't know if you're reading.
Yes.
Chat.
Okay. Stress, social media, stress, health problem. So yeah, all of them are very legit. Everything is legit. Anyone wants to unmute himself and share about the topic that you just wrote on
Yeah,
the...
Nishi or Dr. Picard, with your life, Austin.
Yeah, I can share. So I'm traveling the world for 2 years right now, visiting intentional communities, and I've just seen, 99% of human existence has been in tribes, and I feel like a lot of, dis-ease comes from the illusion of separation, and people living their separate lives. I grew up in a neighborhood where we didn't know our neighbors, and there's this feeling of a lack of feeling of community and a feeling of disconnection, and that leading to anxiety, depression, suicide. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. This, for me, when I was working every day in the city, I would come back and after the full day of work, I will sit for half an hour to 2 hours in silence in the dark. So I will sit and just put music or maybe one candle and sit in the dark for a few, minimum half an hour to 2 hours to kind of, so this is what I developed for myself and it was working for me good. But if I would not do it, I will exactly go to the more
Picard or
destructive
Nishi, you want
things
to
like
share? Julia?
the other things.
Sorry, I didn't hear you, Pablo.
Do you want to share a little bit, Julia? You or Nishi or
Oh
Picard?
yeah, sure. I don't mind. I don't mind sharing. So I've noticed that I have pretty good discipline with other things, specifically friendships and certain people. A few months ago, it's really, really taken something out of me. It's so obvious to me that I feel depleted and I pick up a lot of energy, and some connections just are not really doing anything for me. But somehow I don't know, I was engaging with some of my friends. And last few months, it's been like about 4 months that I completely like moved on. I didn't cut anything. I just started to focus on different things. And I do feel that right away, I felt like extra time, extra energy that I could use for something that is good for me.
And there's a lot of very solid data these days, Julia, that you can see and even predict a lot of biomarkers, health outcomes, average of the 5 people you spend most time with. So, it's, of course, one can feel it at the energetic subjective level, but
It's
this
like
is
bad habits, not inspiring lifestyle. And I feel like as if they're feeding of me because I'm so always vital. So it's like really, really not good for me. It's exactly life force. It's exactly how I called it. Yati. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Pikara, I think you were going to share something.
Yeah, I've realized I'm in the dark here, so you can't see me very well. Yeah, I'm dealing with very modern day stress living in Manhattan. dealing with a lot of energy coming at me. And I'm also dealing with a lot of legal issues and family members and corruption. And I'm dealing with just a lot of external factors that, injustice, things that are going on that are very challenging, and trying to keep my center and take care of myself in the midst of a city that I feel is not very healthy that way. And among my family needing help, and these legal issues where I'm fighting for justice. It just takes a lot of energy. And so finding that balance of how I can give enough energy to myself and take care of myself when there's so much outside energy coming at me can be very difficult.
Thank you. Mishi?
Yeah, I just am also coming from a place in the last month of just my nervous system is completely overloaded, and it's not even social media, it's just all the communications with the phone is very distracting to taking care of my personal body and the things that I need to do to regulate my nervous system right now. And there's like it's not only a distraction, but also feels like just added pressure of things coming to the mind when I'm on the phone too much.
Thanks. And one of the things that's interesting as we speak with this code, like Nishi, Pikara, Julia, Austin, like you are some of the people that I've spent most of the last decades preparing. You have some of the techniques, you support some of the people that are at the edge of health and well-being. It's pretty obvious that it's not just one more course to do one thing. Like and some of the more trained mindful people are having this living up spirit. Stefan shared often how many of these mindful teachers that had come from America were themselves getting close to burnout, which was very surprising because these are literally the gurus that develop some of the most transformative practices. And he mentioned two things that I resonated strongly with me. Like we thought modern technology was going to save us time. That was the promise, right? Rather than a typewriter would have email and messages to be so efficient. And he says, I know no one, Pablo, not a single person, even in the mindful community, who says, now my life has so much more space for meditating in the deep ground of being. And I was seeing an interview today with Harari. He said, now that we have AI, for the first time, a technology that's even much more powerful than the atomic bomb or the printing press, because it's the first technology that does not require human decision making to make decisions. It can make its own ideas and decisions. Even the atomic bomb required humans. It's not at its potential, but a lot of money getting invested in. If we were investing as much in taking human potential to its potential, maybe we'd be in a great moment. But that's not what's happening. And he himself, he just finished a book tour, 5 million copies of the last two books. But in December, he's going to take, like he does every year, 60 days off of Vipassana. 60 days with no phone, no books, no reading, no writing, no speaking, to just tune in again. So that then he can see clearly. But there is this pressure of those of us who feel most called to help others heal, to often not let our own life force tune in again. And I can see it in myself. I think I get a lot of benefit from learning online from Peter Attia, the protocol Huberman shows, or learn online. But I think finding a way to stop doing the things that are depleting our life force has to be a first priority. Because otherwise, if we just try to stack more habits on top of a depleted system, it will not be as successful. Our immune system will not be optimal. Our hormesis will just flood us with cortisol. So one of the things that I've been doing myself is regular fasting. I know Yulia was doing now a fasting 5 days of juicing. I do 2 or 3 times a year, a 5 to 10 day just water fast. Very good for my gut, but I try to do it at the same time where I can be mostly in silence. I think in my life it's not realistic to every day have a perfect balance. That's probably would require me to live a lifestyle that's not. But one of the things also we want to talk together is how do we make a, let's say, 12 to 18 month transformations? Because some of these things require changing bigger habits. So we're going to put a lot of the conversation today, not in just a quick fix, but as we go over the next half of this program, we're going to be trying to set 12 to 18 month transformations so that whatever our purpose is, which may not just be to look good and be healthy, but if that's the case, that's fine. Maybe he wants to more, and there's not as good about having a hobby that one loves than trying to heal the planet. But like none of those can be done without a very regulated system. I'm gonna just let, in case Naima wants to share, and if not now before we enter, I would like maybe if Picara could share a little bit what she sees most commonly in her clients or patients in New York that may be depleting the life force. So we also try to not just talk without content of people we experience, either our own direct experience or people we're trying to help. Naima, if you want to share your side on mute yourself, and I'd just love to also let Picara share a little bit of what she's seeing in her own practice that may be limiting people's life force.
Sorry, did you say Naima?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed being in front of the computer too many hours is really depleting. So really in line with what you're saying about technology. And I notice I just have to get outside and get into my body and get into nature. Otherwise, I just feel like I start turning into zombie and I get stressed and irritable and low energy. So yeah, and even like my phone, having it on my hand, like using it in my hand too much, like my hand starts to hurt, all these weird things. So yeah, technology, and then yeah, stress, like time pressure, stress.
Naima, now that I have you online, and so we start transforming this. So we drop something to give space to something new. And we were just talking earlier today. Do you want to share a little bit what you were sharing with me of the kind of things you feel that if you drop something, you could bring something else in that gives you life force? You've shared a little bit about like things you had in your life, dancing, performing, guiding people, expressing through movement, connecting to nature. What would you like to replace it with that is life force affirming?
See, yeah, all of that. I mean, I just came back from 3 days of being on my own in a cabin in the woods next to a river by a mountain, and I just, I just feel completely recharged, completely different, reset, and so much magic happens when I'm alone in nature. I don't know, I just channel like so much, and just so much insight and so much emotional release. And yeah, singing, dancing, meditating, connecting with vibe tribe people, all of that definitely brings life force energy. Actually, one question I had was, do you when Yati, you're talking about life force and we're talking about this, do you associate life force with sexual energy, creative energy, or separate? How do you guys relate that?
I didn't thought about it that way, but it definitely cannot be separated. Yeah, it cannot be separated.
Yeah.
It's one of the same thing. Yeah, I in my personal life try to
And I would
really keep
say,
the life force. Yeah, like bringing a lot of things, like working with the elements of nature. This is what I do daily to enhance, like being in the ocean and things, and but also the sexual energy, keep it very controlled, like so it's not out of control. Yeah, so basically, yeah, I control it from a very young age. Yeah, it's
and we
definitely
can
not
share this
separated.
practice, Naima, because I'm glad you brought it up. I've been talking to you, and I'll let Picaro also speak on this. You know that one of my longest practices, as you know, we're very lucky to have had this incredible Qigong master in Costa Rica, like Rama. And in Qigong, there is some very direct practices where you cultivate the Qi and the Dantian, but you really cultivate the sexual creative energy that can be expressed in many ways. Like, it, of course, includes intimacy, but an ability to birth things. And I think most of us here want to be healthier and maybe have a long health span and longevity. I know Naima is looking realistically to go to 120 years or beyond. So she's even before the third part of her life. And in the next 80 years, just imagine what's possible that we can birth. And I think that's why also having this done in community, one of the biggest failures of the Western so-called healthcare system, but it's a disease care system, is that it's over-individualized and over-medicalized. And the sexual healing creative energy really is to birth things collectively, like whether it's bringing human beings. So we'll discuss that very deeply, Naima. We'd love to have also your input on ideas and stuff on the second half, because I think the epidemic of loneliness of the system of the US is partly that energy being very much not attuned, and in many ways finding very little addictions of small dopamine through whatever other distractions like pornography or online or whatever that are almost like the least quality way. I'll say this in the simplest way. The way we feed our bodies depends on the quality of the nutrients. What we feed our minds depends on the quality of things we give into our minds. And it's as if there is like an excess of junk energy that is being promoted and offered. So that's why I agree with Yati. What we pay attention to, especially in our sexual energy. So I think what's very valuable is to find a trustworthy place to express sexual energy.
Yeah, and I think just to respond to Yati and to you, like for me, life force energy is one and the same with sexual energy, creative energy, because it is life energy, right? I mean, the whole universe has been created through a sexual energy, and I think we associate sex with, you know, the act of penetrative sex, but it's so much more than that, right? It's life energy, it's nature energy, it's creative energy, and as you say, Pablo, it's beyond the act. It's creating anything we want, projects, and so that's why I was asking how you are looking at it, because yeah, that definitely resonates. That if we're you know, in habits or activities, practices that are bringing down our life energy, that is our creative energy, right? And so yeah, just was curious about that.
Naima, one of
Thank
the
you
things
so much,
I love
for
on
bringing
how
this.
you connect with dance and activating female creative energy and everyone's creative energy is that I think it's very difficult to do that with seminars and PowerPoints. If anything, really requires direct experience in a trustworthy container is the expression of like something that's both secure enough and open enough to express something that really, and I would say this, many of us, Naima, grew up in cultures that had a lot of taboos around sexual energy. So one of the things that one needs to let go of for that energy to flow better is some of those mental models that maybe our parents had not studied deeply enough, and that the new earth doesn't need. And I think without that, it's very hard to imagine thriving. So we'll definitely go much deeper into that in the second half. And the video of Dr. Caro also talks about some things that are also have to do with female fertility and postmenopause that modern Western medicine is addressing in an over-medicalized and badly understood way, which is really sad. But let me just pass it briefly to Dr. Picara to just share a little bit like what she's sensing in her own patients that may be general trends affecting the life force, and then we'll go to the second part.
Yeah, so again, being in New York City, this is a city of excess and deficiency. Right? People spend a lot of energy working or celebrating, either way, but they're often spending energy, and they become depleted, and then over time they have breakdown in some part of their body. And I see this in lawyers. I have a lawyer right now who is going to have spinal surgery because she sits for 80 hours a week and depletes herself with her work. And even though she spends her free time doing things that she enjoys, like sailing and spending time with her family, there's not enough balance. And she's spent that primal chi energy that is necessary, for the spine to hold up, which is also related to sexual energy as well. That energy, once it's spent, in excess, and you're not replenishing it enough, that's what I see. And I'm even seeing this in people who are in creative fields. I'm working with a, two-time Tony winner who has one of the worst physical bodies I've seen in a long time in terms of depletion. They're in pain all the time. Their spine is twisted. They can't sit normally. They can't walk normally, and they're still working on Broadway. Like they're still producing, directing. They're still doing all of this. So what I see here is a lot of depletion, and then the use of stimulants to make up for it, to give them energy so that they can keep functioning. And those stimulants are also depleting them. And even when they're doing things that maybe bring them joy, those tend to also be done to excess. And it's just a series of depletions in their energy that way. I will say that in Chinese medicine, there is a sense that if there's depletion in one part of the body, there's excess somewhere else in the body. And where I see that is things like cancer are excess. The thing that needs fuel, our organs, right, our bones, our brain, those aren't getting enough energy. And so the cells that should not be growing are getting energy because they're taking all of the excess that we do, like too much food, right? And they're taking it and they're utilizing it. So the body gets confused, and it starts to malfunction, right? And so it's feeding cells that it shouldn't be feeding, and it's not feeding the organs the way it should because the energy is being spent in ways that it shouldn't be spent. So I see a lot of chronic illness that's just due to overspending of energy or taking in energy that they shouldn't be and then accumulating. So whether that's, as Pablo said, whether those are negative thoughts, poor food and poor diet, toxicity from living in a major city that's in the air, that's still accumulating in our system and creating other problems.
Thank you. Yes, Stefan used to always say that one big mistake of longevity is that there's a growth period in life. So let's say if someone, when they're 20, grows to be 6 feet, they're not going to be 12 feet high when they turn 40. But most people in the West keep eating as if they were growing teenagers, and then they grow cancers and metabolic, visceral fat. And I'll just mention two very obvious medical trends that show this. Most people, adrenal glands are very overspent. Many people are having, as Dr. Picard said, problems in their kidneys, in their back, and then just get some symptoms alleviated or some upper to keep them going. So that's really not how we try on. One of the things why we were very lucky to be inspired by the blue zone of centenarians in Costa Rica is that most of that long life comes from a very natural balance with nature, with the flows and timing of the day and night, with moving. Most people walk naturally throughout the day into their 100 years, are much healthier, even if they never go to the gym or do ashtanga every morning. But most of them are not spending most of their days sitting at a desk in a very unbalanced part. So thanks for sharing, because this is the whole part of this community. This is exactly why some people are being given prescriptions before really understanding the balance of the life energy. So back to you, Yati.
Yeah, beautiful sharings. This is totally what we are doing. I feel so good. I feel so good with all this sharing that we are expressing it and we are growing. What came up to me is electromagnetic field, because we discussed working with computers, living in cities, and we are exposed to electromagnetic fields, and they really affect our body, but especially flights. I understood that flights is the highest electromagnetic field. Now, how we can uh, balance electromagnetic field? Walking barefoot, we all know it. Taking showers, or going to the ocean, doing ice bath, hot tub. Uh, I guess sauna also will do it. So there are many different ways, but we need to do it daily. So see if you can find daily to introduce this and to share with your patients and clients and family, because this, even 5 minutes a day of grounding, changes all the story. That's why I try to be every day at least 2 hours in the ocean, because yeah, this is how I feel. But it's enough even 10 minutes of just swimming, or even 5. So let's continue to uh, more things. Now I want to share practical ways to interact with your autonomic nervous system. I want to share about my story in a few minutes. I still suffer from certain allergy to foods. When I eat the food that I'm allergic to, I might have a allergic reaction that comes with a feeling kind of rush in the skin, feeling difficulty of breath, feeling, and it can go to very bad state that the shortage of breath is really, there is no breath, basically I barely breathe. So I have to go to hospital and get a certain injection. I guess it's a type of adrenaline that really reduce the inflammatory mark for my throat, because I cannot breathe. Now I discover I had the control over the autonomic nervous system when the last time I knew it theoretically, but the last time I really give it into test. I had allergic reaction, and I was sitting in the Airbnb in San Jose, close to hospital. So because I've been already 4 or 5 times in hospitals in these situations. And I was close to hospital because if something out of control, I'll be able to hospitalize myself. It was a test that I did on myself. I started to reach to a point I barely can breathe in new air. And then I discover I will do the Wim Hof breathing that, I mean, now you will think how you do the Wim Hof breathing when you cannot breathe. It's possible. So I start to take those deep breaths like this, like forcing the breath, really, really forcing. But before that, I was measuring with oximeter, and I saw I was at 92 or 94 oxygen saturation. And it's pretty low. I mean, I was feeling it. It's still not a dangerous one. So I did 5 to 10 breaths, and I was able to take it suddenly from 94 to 96. And then I realized, like what I knew theoretically, that the Wim Hof method releases adrenaline and it takes down inflammation. And I did it, imagine, in 5 breaths. And I was able to control the autonomic nervous system, because now there is another model that I was able to control it. When I start to feel the symptom in another time that I have allergic reaction, I pay attention to the symptoms and I told the body, do not respond. That means the autonomic nervous system told me, Yati, you have allergic reaction, but it didn't respond automatically. He asked me, what should I do? And I told the system, do not respond, meaning don't use the inflammation. Now, this is in my case. I deal with allergies, so I discovered this. I encourage you not to go extreme like this, but to explore where you can control your autonomic nervous system. Basically, or the autonomic response, which is basically your heartbeat, the pulse. You can slow it and take it up. It's also the body temperature. I was able to increase my body temperature in a few degrees before going to ice. So I encourage you to see how you can interact with that system, because it's autonomic, because it will do it by itself, but you can also have access to it. So see in your daily life how you can have access. It is very valuable. If I would not be taught about this when I was a kid of 4 or 5 years old by my father, I will die in India when I was 19 when I have this attack. And I knew that is possible, so I stopped breathing for a few hours. I was in coma. So these things are not only for yourself, but also to educate the kids that they are able to control, instead of every little thing to go to the doctor. So this is the things that save my life, and maybe will inspire more people. Yeah. Let's use one of the main techniques, which is visualization. Practical ways to interact. So visualization is really powerful, and many of us, we have it born, meaning you have it as a gift. Some people interact with it more and some less, but I've seen here hundreds of people in the ice bath. I tell them, they told me, Yati, my hands are very cold, they are freezing. I told them, just breathe into the hands and see if you can open up the veins. Visualize the fire and the heat flowing there. And they do it. And many people do it in a few seconds and it works for them. Now imagine what visualizations can do. So yeah, I encourage you to start using visualization in different ways. I guess I'm gonna record one of the guided meditation on visualization, so you can practice it more. Pablo?
Yeah, I think to come back to the core practical things, many of us now have measuring devices like an Oura Ring or a Whoop, and it's helped me, for example, in my own practice, into the eyes. That has a lot of interesting autonomic responses. Yati has accompanied me and Dax in the last year, where I did a lot of tracking with these, with real-time glucose monitor, real-time ketone monitor, oximeters, testing strength before and after. So I know the data in my own case. I could see the difference on visualization, but I would say the core 3 principles we want to express today, make practical next week, is first, it's very hard to achieve anything if you have no awareness of what's going on. And someone said the other day, and they had posted this, that if you go to your doctor, your medical traditional Western doctor, and they ask you nothing about what's going on in your life, how's your life force, how's your sexual energy, what's your diet, how you're sleeping, and you come, you say symptoms, and they give you medicines, they're just a legal drug dealer. That's not so the first thing is, whichever practice you have of awareness, try to scan as clearly where the imbalances and inflammations are. When you sense the blockages, inquire deeper what is out of balance? It's often a combination of an emotional imbalance, a habit that is out of balance. And the first thing before trying to do more is that something needs to be released. It's very hard to fix things, so to speak, without first awareness and then initial release. That's why I'm asking everyone that each of us think we need to release to allow, let's say, the more harmonizing flow of the body's own intelligence. So, for example, in the ice bath, Yati was a very kind and helpful teacher, but he thought I was able to progress very fast just by letting go of my own responses to the shock of the cold and just letting my body do what it could do. So like a very high trust in your body's ability to warm, circulate and stuff, basically do all the work. So I was able to go from a complete beginner to kind of making it to the edges of the possible just on that awareness. So this is not just like inspirational blah blah blah, like no, in the ice on 40 minutes at 2 degrees, like either it's real or like you really cannot make it, you cannot fake it. So I'd say the first is the awareness of what's blocking your trust, how the body would work. It's, for most of us, an emotional block at the beginning, a belief that doesn't serve. The second, and you have a lot of people here in this group, that can help get that intuition better. The second is there's a couple of practices we'll share next week. So I think the breath, almost in any meditation tradition, allows you to bring in visualization of different kinds. Doesn't matter if you do Tibetan meditation and you feel the lung, it's overburdening the head and you need to take it down to your base. Like, doesn't matter if you think it's prana and doesn't matter if you think it's the chi, whatever way in which you deal with your life force practice, to do it in a way that tunes into the wisdom of nature, where you do not feel so separate. And the third is to have measurements. So then you can see like kind of a conversational part with reality. So we're going to share some of that and put some kind of examples. But in the context of today, I wanted to just go briefly through the group and just get a sense of what practices each one of us has that already works best. So for me, it's really when I do my Qigong, most present, mindful, not as technique, sensitivity, allowing both point where the blockages are. That to me is very helpful. When it doesn't work as well, I was very lucky that Yati both taught me the techniques of breathwork and ice, but he let me find my own way of doing it. Because to some extent, what you want is someone to open the door and then you tap to your own intuition. But then you need also measurements. So then the second thing I would say is like, how do you know if what you're doing is working? I mean, for Yati, it was very obvious. It's almost like life and death. He breathed, die. But sometimes the way to prove is more subtle. Like Naima mentioned, recovering her energy. So I just want to go briefly through the people now in the call, and then we'll do it in the extended group. Once you are able to check depleting you the most, what technique do you have that you can use with the protocols we'll give next week that best help you both visualize and direct into your body's own wisdom that communication to the life force? So in whatever order people want to share, so we get a sense of some of the tools that we already use for this. Kara, Mishi, Naim, do you want to share of the tools that you currently have? Which one is your that help you right now connect best to your autonomic nervous system? Yeah, Naima is dance, and the thing, when you see her dance, you almost feel something positive is contagious. It's contagious.
Mm,
When Dr.
chanting.
Bikara does Sufi chanting, it is
Amazing.
contagious.
Beautiful. Wow.
When I've done breath work, ice bath, and yoga with Yulia, it is contagious. Like, to some extent, the life force spills over.
Yes.
Mishi and Yati, you want to share what is it that you do?
For me, I'm practicing now the contrast therapy. This is the new discovery, the hot and cold. And what I'm most attracted is the practice of Zazen, just sitting in stillness, in silence, no movement, and seeing the movement internally. And I guess I'm going to record one of those meditations and guidance in the future, also to share with you this practice that I love so much.
And Yati, one thing that we can share with the group is how, and for me, she's spending time in nature, working with plants. I think that for any of us has to be at the core of any sustained practice. That's why thriving beyond and regenerating the planet are the same agenda. There is no healthy humans in a dead planet. But one of the things I also want to point that I've been working with Yati and with Yulia, we put it to the test recently, is developing protocols from where there is intense travel, like maybe a multi-hour drive, like being from Acasta to San Jose 7 hours, or coming from airplane from Europe, which is one of the things we've been doing before we let that extra set of stresses of energies movement, of flights, etc., of viral load of people. We've been designing a protocol of contrast therapy, sauna, breath work, cold, meditation to do right away, that we'll share with you when you travel. And even if you don't have a sauna or a cold plunge, you do this even with contrast, water, hotter or colder in a shower, breath, and a kind of sitting, stillness, grounding. Because one of the things that I feel we underestimate, and I used to do in my life, was like fall into the Western pattern of just getting a booster rather than a body regulation. Like you feel you're tired, then you go for a coffee or whatever else you think you need to speed up. And what the body is asking is actually a hormetic resetting. So we'll share some of that too. So thank you very much for everyone today. We'll be sharing in a group a couple of resources. We'll be developing the practical practice for next week based on a lot of what we shared today. Keep anyone else who hasn't done the breathwork from last week, you have all of this week to keep sharing how it works. And we are very excited to keep learning through each of these core topics in a community of shared experience. We're very lucky that right now in the planet, there's lots of resources. What we want to do is not overburden people with more content, but find the pearls that are really useful so that we really can thrive better. So hope everyone has a restful night tonight.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Beautiful.
Thank you.